afternoon all, and I'm also not using a presentation. And thank you for this opportunity to be part of this important conversation. And most of the panel members here and many of you in the audience brings years of experience working across various landscape and multiple species and conservation issues. I, on the other hand, are relatively new to this space, and I'm here with more questions than answers. Still, I hope to share some of my findings from my thesis on patterns and drivers of human-elephant interactions in the Wayanad Plateau. So while it's difficult to suggest some simple solutions for mitigating conflict, I'll talk about some of the challenges and possibilities for reducing conflict and also fostering coexistence. So when we talk about Wayanad, it's difficult to talk about the region in isolation because it's part of a larger Nilgiri landscape, say Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, where a flow of energy and organism happening across the landscape. For example, say invasive species Senna can move from Wayanad to like say Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, an elephant can move to Wayanad. So, but at the same time, different landscape or states have a different, say, landscape planning strategy, socio-political context, and also the ecology. Right. So I did my PhD in Kerala, Wayanad, where I looked at the historical transformation of the landscape. So basically, I looked at the how the landscape transformed from pre-colonial time to the present and how that impacted elephants. And on that, I overlaid the current distribution pattern of elephants and also seasonal, spatial, and temporal patterns of human-elephant interactions. As you know, that Wayanad Plateau is located in the northwest of Nilgiri Plateau, where we sit now. And Wayanad is a very unique geographical region within the entire Nilgiri landscape because of its geographical features of small rolling hills interspersed with a lot of swamps and meandering streams. So, but the area that comes in the east of Wayanad Plateau is more drier than Wayanad because of its, say, orographic effect of the Western Ghats. So this landscape is prone to seasonal fluctuation in resource availability. So Wayanad Plateau, that's not just restricted within Wayanad, it's also extending to Coorg and Gudlur. It's mostly gone. Anyway, I'm coming to that point. But this entire landscape was a microhabitat for elephants. So elephants from say Palakkad or Attapadi or like Deccan Plateau used to come to Wayanad maybe a century back. Now the connectivity is completely disrupted, except a few like elephants in the major landscape. And also, as you can see, Wayanad is located in the west of Nagarole, Mudumalai, and also Sebandipur. So that means this area is geographically vulnerable to conflict because any push-out animal, say a transient tiger or a crop-raiding elephant, move towards west will reach Wayanad. And also Wayanad experienced severe deforestation during the post-colonial period. Say, I'll give you a context. Between 1950 and 1980, around 53% of the forest is converted into farmland. This was due to inward migration of state formation and inward migration of people from Travancore, and they opened up large area for raising plantations and human habitation. Now, as you can see, forest is restricted only along the boundary of the district and is highly fragmented. You can, as you can see in this map, it's not connected. However, human-elephant conflict or human-wildlife conflict was relatively rare in Wayanad, say until early 90s. This was due to many reasons, mainly because of the poaching of male elephants and hunting of wild animals by the, like say, migrants, and across the landscape, it was very prevalent. So that animal population went down. But after what happened, in the same window, what happened? The people, they migrated from south. There is a lot of palatable crops in the farmlands. For example, jackfruit, mango, coconut, arecanut, like that. So the land cover has changed a lot. And what happened after the implementation of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, the wildlife in the entire Nilgiri landscape recovered, especially the male component of Asian elephants. And male elephants are mostly involving in crop breeding because of their polygamous mating system and their behavioral, other behavioral factors. And interestingly, what I found is that during my study, that number of elephants inside forest or resource availability inside forest and conflict is not no way connected in Wayanad, because most of the crop breeding incidents and other forms of conflict happening during the monsoon and post-monsoon season. But that is a time when lot of resource, say forage or water available inside forest, right? But so we expect more conflict during summer when there is more elephant coming to Wayanad, but it is happening other way around. That means, so conflict in Wayanad is linked with, say, behavioral individuality of elephants and also the availability of palatable crops in the farmland. And now, when we talk about conflict mitigation, I'll speak for another 2 minutes. When we talk about conflict mitigation, I think that no need to do any further research to understand, say, why conflict is happening. Our major stakeholders, say forest department and NGOs, already know that why elephants are coming out and raiding crops. But despite a lot of interventions, the forest is getting degraded. For example, I'll give you one example. The Wayanad Sanctuary, around 50% of the Wayanad Sanctuary is covered by Senna spectabilis. And also the conflict incidents in the landscape is increasing. So in the last decade, around 40 people died because of conflict incidents. So what it indicates is that we need a new vision for not just Wayanad, also for other areas in the Nilgiri landscape. And also, so the conflict has multiple strands to it, right? There's social, political, and economic, and a lot of complexity, a lot of strands to it. All needs to be understood for the better management or reducing conflict in this landscape. And I think that if we want conflict can be reduced a lot, at least in Wayanad, through, say, implementing proper conflict mitigation measures and then like maintenance, and also, say, if Panchayat or forest department appoint a group of villagers, experienced villagers, for reducing conflict, they can easily manage or reduce conflict to a great extent. But that's not happening in Wayanad's context. And other critical issue what I noticed in our landscape is that about the conservation money. Who is using conservation money actually? So and the people that share space with elephant are not the beneficiaries of the conservation money. Most of the conservation money in our country is used by the forest department or non-governmental organization. I think for a meaningful conservation or conservation initiative, I think the people, the conservation money should also go to the people, so they will have a sense of ownership about landscape and also elephants. And I'll conclude. So as I mentioned, that the Wayanad Plateau is a very unique geographical region within the entire Nilgiri landscape because it's a wet area. But even though mostly gone, the remaining forest that lies in the eastern side of Wayanad Plateau is still very unique. And there is an influx of elephants during summer. It's a very important microhabitat for elephants. So the key priority should be the restoration of the remaining forest in the Wayanad Plateau. And that not only ensure the long-term survival of elephants in the entire Nilgiri landscape, that will also in future in long run reduce human-wildlife interactions, not just in Wayanad, in other parts of the landscape. Yeah, thank you.